for joining me. I'm excited to see some people that I know and some people from all over the country. I want to start out just by saying that this is going to be a webinar that we're actually going to model during the webinar what global collaboration is. So one of the things that I want to ask you is if you could just put in the chat window, what does global collaboration to you? So how would you define global collaboration? If you could just put a quick answer in the chat window, that would be great. And while you guys are thinking about that, I'll go ahead and tell you the agenda for today. So we're going to talk about what global collaboration is and why it's important for our students. We're going to talk about how educators can connect their students globally and resources that you can use to do that. The impact of global collaboration for our students. I'm going to share some resources and some quick tips to get started. And then we'll also talk about an exciting event coming up, which is Skypeathon. Okay, so we have working with students and teachers around the world toward a common goal. So I think there's something really important about that answer, and it's the around the world part, because in thinking about global collaboration, I think all of us collaborate in our classrooms. So students have collaborate, and I would guess in most of your classrooms probably on a daily basis. So it's the thinking about the difference between collaboration in our classrooms versus moving that to global collaboration and the impact on our students. So I invite you to go ahead and continue to put your responses in the chat window for how you would define global collaboration. But for me, if I were to think of, I know that it's important for my students to collaborate, and I build that into every day in my classroom. And when I think about having my students collaborate on a global level, the impact that that has on them on even a wider and more impactful learning outcomes that they get from that. One of them is that they see that not only they communicate with the people that are in their classroom, but they see that what they're learning in school is actually what students around the world are learning. It also helps them to see how what they're learning in school can be used in their future careers, and just helps them to see things on a wider stage and in a much bigger view and bigger lens. So also toward the common goal is an interesting way to look at it as well, and that's so true, and that I think thinking and exposing our students to common goals helps them build empathy and compassion for others as well, which is a big part of using Skype in the classroom and global learning in your class with your students and giving them those experiences. So during this webinar, you can, I'm watching the chat window, so please add any questions or comments and ideas that you have in the chat. And I'm hoping that this can be global collaboration too, all of us just meeting here right now. Also, you can use Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you can use the hashtag #AskAnSMT, and if someone could put that in the chat window for me, it's hashtag #AskAnSMT. There are Skype Master teachers that are available to answer your questions as well. All right, so it's really cool to see people all around the world that are joining today. And if you put yourselves in the shoes of your students and giving our students that same experience, then that's pretty exciting too. So why is global collaboration important for our students? And I touched on that a little bit. It does develop compassion for our students. It helps them build empathy towards others. And if you think about the difference of that, collaborating in your own classroom and building empathy with people even in their own community, but then making that even more, and the impact that has on our students is really great. It also helps our students just dream bigger. And so I've had so many students that say that Skype experiences have changed their plans. Like, it has changed maybe some of the classes that they take or the careers that they're interested in, and has really helped ignite their passions about things that maybe they were a little bit interested in, or sometimes things that they didn't even know existed. And so it's really opening doors for our students and broadening their horizons to dream bigger and to just consider other options for them and their present and their future as far as their education and their future career. So how can educators connect global projects with their content? So there are so many ways to do this, and I know that as educators we want to give our students global collaboration experiences. We also are intentional about connecting that with our content and making it relevant to what we are teaching our students on a daily basis. So some ways to do that is connecting your students with an expert that uses the content that you're doing in your classroom with their career. Doing that helps them to see why they are really learning it. Once you start doing that and embedding that as part of your culture of your classroom, then you won't hear the question anymore of when will we ever use this, because they get firsthand experience of people that are actually using the skills that you're teaching in your class as part of their daily job. So it really makes the learning more relevant and inspires passion for your students for the real world relevance. So connecting them to experts and guest speakers, and I'll be showing you here in a few minutes about how you can access guest speakers and experts who are willing to Skype with your students for free, and I'll show you some great resources to do that. Also, we have virtual field trips is a great way to connect Skype in the classroom experiences with what you're learning and to make the learning come alive. Mystery Skype is another great way to do that. I see someone says they always find virtual field trips linked to projects that they're doing in their class. That's really awesome. And I know that is what is a memory hook for our students. I know that what all of you are doing in your class is fantastic and inspiring work. When you can build experiences that students can connect to on an emotional level, then that will keep them remembering it, talking about it, and that's what makes it a lifelong memory rather than just one lesson in your class. So also Kahoot is a way to connect students with global collaboration in a really easy and fast and simple, low-risk way. On the Skype in the Classroom website, which I will show you, you can connect with other educators that teach the same content area or approximate grade level that you do. And what you can do is decide among the teachers, the educators, what topic you want to focus on, and connect on the education.skype.com website. And then you launch the Kahoot and share the screen. And so then the students are actually playing the Kahoot game together via Skype. And you can do that with even more than one classroom. You can do that with many classrooms, or you can do it with just one. It's a really low risk way to do that because I know a lot of you are probably using Kahoot in your classroom anyway. So it's a pretty easy way to embed Skype experiences. One super cool thing about it is that it shows students, without you having to say a word about it, it shows students that what they're learning in class is the same thing that other students all around the world are learning. So that also builds empathy and compassion for others because they're recognizing the similarities that they have with other students around the world. It also makes what they are learning in class more relevant because it's not something that just we know that it's not something just the teacher decided that they wanted to teach, but this really gives credibility to what you're teaching and they are able to communicate that to other students. Also makes them try a little bit harder because it's like they have an authentic audience and they can go back and forth, and if there's questions that were missed, a higher percent of the students miss, then you can take turns and have students come to the screen and explain the answers. And when they know they're not just explaining to their class, it does make the stakes a little bit higher. And then often, Skype calls will be a great way to launch PBL and other projects. Sometimes, as an educator, you'll already have that in mind. Sometimes it is something that just happens authentically, where you might connect your class with another classroom with similar interests or researching something similar, or you might connect your class with an expert that ends up launching a relevant PBL project that relates to your content. Skype's a great way to utilize resources that aren't in your community especially ones that aren't in your school, and be able to expose students to those experiences that you otherwise could not. I've also seen, so I'm just trying to throw out ideas that you may not have thought of to incorporate Skype experiences for your students. Another one is Breakout EDU is a popular thing in schools that has taken off in the last few years. And I have seen teachers use clues for Breakout EDU that the students need to call someone using Skype. And so you can connect with other experts on the Skype website that can kind of team up with you, and students can, and you can give them clues to share to give your students, or you can even have students Skype with another class and they can do the breakout together. So that's a pretty innovative way that I have seen teachers incorporate both Breakout EDU and Skype. One thing that I think is overlooked is sometimes I know teachers want to use Skype and want to give their students Skype experiences, but maybe they don't have a big amount of time to do that. I know that you have a lot of content that you need to teach, and maybe some of you have short class periods. And so something I think that's often overlooked is using video messaging. So with video messaging, that really helps with time constraints. It also helps with time zone constraints. So the actual time that you have in class, if you don't have 25 to 30 minutes to do a Skype call, an extensive Skype call, or maybe you just can't get the time zones to connect. So video messaging is a great way to get past that obstacle. One example that I have of this is last year during Hour of Code, and I'll be doing that again here in a few weeks. I knew that I have 4 middle school math classes, and I knew I wanted all of them to be able to connect with a video game designer. But I only had approximately 15 minutes per class period that I knew that I could do that day. So I went on the education.skype.com website, and I found video game designers, and the very first one that I messaged and requested a session with, they were fantastic and messaged me back within just a few hours. And what I did is had that video game designer sent a video message to my first class, and it was just a few minutes sharing about how they use math in their jobs. And remember, you can coach the experts on what it is that you need them to focus on. In my case, it was how they use math in their job, but you could definitely do that with anything that you need them, any kind of content or standards that you need either the educators or the experts or the people the virtual field trip to do, and they'll often tailor that to your needs. So they left a video message about that, and then my first class listened, and they were able to interview the video game designer, and then we just exchanged video messages all day. It was really cool because we were able to get past time constraints, and we didn't have to record it in any other way. I didn't have to have someone in my classroom all day long and give up an hour or a full day of their time away from their job. We were able to use Skype to best utilize the time on the video game designer's part and my part. And then another thing to think about is that using Skype, there are so many ways to incorporate rich learning experiences for your whole class. But one thing to consider is it doesn't always have to be your whole class. So, so thinking about Skype a little bit differently and pushing yourself to just embedding it as a part of your culture in your class as an option. So once you start incorporating Skype calls, you will build a community of people that you've worked with, Skype contacts that you've built, collaborated with other educators and experts within the Skype in the Classroom website. And then as students are doing research projects in your class or Genius Hour projects, or you're doing any kind of inquiry projects or anything where students are really designing their learning and investigating and research and using critical thinking, as things come up, you will start to have a community of experts that you can then call on. So one example of that is I had a small group of students that were researching something, and they couldn't find the resource that they needed online. I didn't know the answer, but I had had a Skype call with an expert in that field, and I said, you know, let's just see if we can reach them. And so they were able to do a quick 5-minute Skype call to interview this expert, and I thought that was a pretty powerful lesson for all of us. It didn't have to be a full 45-minute class designed just for that Skype call. It was authentic in what they needed then, and a great way to incorporate technology to best fit their needs and previous experiences. So lastly, before I start sharing my screen and sharing some other resources, I talked a little bit about how using Skype is a great hook for your lessons to help students remember it. And I know that Skype calls are a memory. So after a Skype call, students will be talking about that, and it's because they do connect to the people that they're Skyping with on an emotional level. So it's something that just authentically students start talking about what they noticed and what they learned. And when they do that, then they're thinking on a deeper level, they're doing more critical thinking, and it's something that they're going to be they will remember day after day and year after year. Something that when they go home, that's what they're going to be talking about the next day, the next week, month later, and even years later. So it's a great way to help them have long-term learning of what you're teaching them in class. Okay, so, and like I said, you can ask questions in the chat window here, and I will be taking a look there. I'm going to share my screen now and share some resources with you. Okay, so the first one I want to show you is I talked some about empathy and compassion and how those are some of the soft skills that are embedded in every single Skype call. Usually when we design our Skype calls, we do them based on the content that we want to teach, and that is our first goal. But always, that's just kind of a thing that always happens is students notice things, they notice similarities that they have in common with people that they're Skyping with, whether it's in their local community or if it's around the world. And so this is a great website for you to explore. It's about how Skype connections can enhance empathy and kindness, and that's something that I think we all know is important to embed in our classes every single day, and to model and to give our students experiences with that. So that's education.microsoft.com/empathy. We're going to be talking about Skypeathon. So Skypeathon is an event coming up here in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to be talking about that in a minute. One thing too, if you are just getting started, or even if you are a veteran in the Skype in the classroom world, a great thing that I would like to encourage you to do is the Microsoft Educator community has outstanding professional development. There are so many great courses on the Microsoft Educator community that I would really encourage you to take advantage of. One that I would encourage you to take a look at and learn from before Skypeathon. A great place to start would be the Building Global Citizens course. So you can take this course, and there are several modules on that and the importance of global citizenship, how to become part of a global professional learning network, and giving students to be from participants to active citizens, and how you can utilize Skype to do that. And then at the end of the course, there's also the Building Global Citizens Notebook, and that has great resources for you. It's this one right here. It has step-by-step ways to do that. It has student roles during a Skype call, and some teacher prompts that you can use, and it has many, many resources in there. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. Okay, and this is the Skype in the Classroom website. It's education.microsoft.com/Skype. And this is just a treasure trove of resources for you. Whenever I go here, I can spend 5 minutes or I can spend hours exploring all of the resources that are here. So you'll see here, we have choices being virtual field trips, Skype lessons, collaborations, mystery Skypes, and guest speakers. Virtual field trips, that's where you would actually take your students on a field trip, even while they stay in their classroom, and that it's totally free to do. A Skype lesson would be kind of like a one-time learning experience for students, versus a Skype collaboration will be if you are learning along with others more in a more like a PBL experience and more than a one-time or one-day experience. Mystery Skype, there are many ways that you can incorporate that all across grade levels and content areas. So there's so many resources to explore there, as well as teachers that you can connect with, that you can search by country, content area, grade level. And then guest speakers, that would incorporate other educators and also experts in other fields. So there are many, many things that you can explore here and you can search for. And this is how I connect with other educators, to connect with my students, to connect our classrooms. I talked about to connect using Kahoot or project-based learning. It's also how I'm able to find experts to connect with my classroom as well, to show how they use what we're learning in their careers every day. So I encourage you, if you haven't yet, or if you haven't in a while, to get on here and explore some of these great resources available. So this is the Skype Collaborations webpage, and this is one that's going to take learning to a deeper level, where students are really going to be researching or exploring together and using an authentic audience to share what they have found or what they've learned, and maybe a project that they have completed or research that they're doing. So these are some great ones to take a look at. It also could just be something that such as the holiday card exchange is one that students allow students to connect with another class around the world to exchange holiday cards. They also see that it's not just those two classrooms that are doing it. It's a project that's global and might have anywhere to 3 or 4 classrooms to hundreds of classrooms participating in these Skype collaborations. So this shows that students all over the world are doing the same thing as your students. So that's the Skype Collaborations page. Some great collaborations for you to take a look at there. One I wanted to show that will be coming up in December is World Wonder Day. And this is one of the Skype collaborations that I and some of my colleagues around the world have created. It's World Wonder Day, and it encourages students to explore this year hunger and food, which is it's a commonality that we all have in every community around the world. Some more severe than others, and through this project we help educators ask questions and prompt students to research what they wonder, and empower students to do something about what they learned in regards to the research that they've done for that. So it actually will be taking place in December this year. But I hope that you will take a look at that and choose to get involved. It's connecting what you are learning will help you do that. We help connect what you're learning in every grade level and every content area to the theme of hunger and food. And then you will Skype with another classroom to share what you've learned and to share about your community and to learn about someone else's community and how hunger and food affects that. And then finally, I want to encourage you to get involved in Skypeathon. So Skypeathon is going to be taking place November 28th and 29th. The first Skypeathon we had a few years ago, the goal was 1 million miles, and it has just grown in popularity and has become more and more widespread, and the community of educators and experts that are getting involved just keeps growing and growing. And so this year the goal is to reach 10 million miles by connecting students around the world, opening hearts and opening minds to other people, building compassion and empathy while also learning. And it's something that different than just a normal Skype call that you would have. If you share with your students that you're doing it for Skypeathon, it's pretty exciting to know that students all across the globe are doing it hour after hour, 24 hours each of those days. There's so many great projects that are going on, so I definitely recommend that you check out the hashtag Skypeathon and also build some connections for your students during Skypeathon. Make sure that you jump into this exciting opportunity for our students. What a great way to model integrating Skype into your classroom and also connecting and building global collaboration worldwide, and to keep keep an eye out here at this website, it's /Skypeathon, and you can keep up to date about how many miles have been traveled by the hour, by the minute actually. Make sure that you are using this website or Twitter to log those miles and help us reach the goal of 10 million miles virtually. I know that we can do that. I'm so excited to see that happen over those 2 days. I want to show you what my students are going to do to connect that to our content area, which for me is math. I'm showing this as an example, but you can do this in any content area, in any grade level. One that I know a number of teachers do is they connect it to reading and writing and research, and summarizing, and so they have students after each Skype call summarize what they learned, talk about their favorite parts and the most surprising parts, some keep track and connect it geographically, and those type of connections. I want to show you what my math students are doing. Okay. So for my students, these are some places that I went during a different Skypeathon. I still need to update for this year, but they will find the distance between the places that we'll be connecting with on Skype. They'll show the rate relationship between miles and kilometers, and the total number of miles traveled, and convert to kilometers, and they'll discover that some places use miles and some use kilometers, which also develops compassion and empathy and some world understanding. They'll use proportions to change miles to feet or kilometers to meters, convert 10 million miles to kilometers, decide which is bigger, kilometer or mile, and then they'll find what percent of each of our Skype calls was made up that part of the 10 million mile goal that each class will achieve. And then they'll connect it with some other trips that they've taken on in their life too. So that's one way that students after the Skype call will connect that even further to what we're learning. All right. So I am just taking a look at the chat window now. Looks like some great projects and resources are being shared. Love to see. I think this is so cool because we have people from all over the world, and you guys are modeling global collaboration right now, which I think is super exciting. So I don't know if you have any questions, then I will be available to answer those. I will be excited to see you guys participate in Skypeathon and be following your journey using the hashtag Skypeathon. Can't wait to see where you and your students travel and what experiences you will create for them. I just want to thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you taking your time out to create amazing opportunities and amazing learning experiences for our students. So thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day or wonderful evening or night wherever you are, and it's great to see all of you here, and I am excited to see you at Skypeathon.